the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you, you...
Hello, you dirty potters. How are you today? Now, for quite some time, I've had a problem in that I don't keep very accurate notes of all of my glazes, and the high majority of the glazes that I do have notes for are pretty much taken down in these little test styles right here. I assume most of you who've kept up with the channel kind of know what these are because I do a lot of my glaze tests on them. For those of you who don't keep up with the channel, these are little test styles that I like to put glazes on to make sure that they come out good on my pottery at a later date. It would kind of lose me a lot of money if I ended up doing all my glaze tests on actual ceramic artwork, because then, you know, what if it turns out bad? So this is the way that I test glazes. I put them on little tiles. Can you guess what these are called? I'll give you 5 seconds. Time's up. They're called test tiles. But when I was going to Consumptive Server College, my master Yoshio Taylor had this giant wall full of test tiles in which showed every single test style that you could ever imagine and all the glazes that he had handmade himself, and it showed a bunch of combinations. It showed you what the glazes look like on white clay, it showed you what the glazes look on brown clay, and I really want a glazed wall like he had in Consumptive Server College. Like, I'm kind of tired of having these tiny little test tiles and just finding them all over my studio and being like, where did I put... Gah! All he did is hump throw a bunch of bottles that were white clay, porcelain clay, redstone, or rather brown clay if you prefer, waited until they dried a little bit, and then he would cut them in half. He then, like, dipped one of them in a certain glaze, and then dipped another one in a certain glaze, and I think you can tell where this is going. I really want one of these because I feel like I need a visual representation at all times, hanging up somewhere in the studio while I'm doing my glaze work. In this video, I'm just going to be throwing a bunch of little bottles, splitting them in half, and then glazing them so that I can have a physical representation at all times. My floating blue, of my Randy's red, maybe some Amico glazes, and the combinations that go with them. I've written them down, I can take pictures, but I want something beautiful. Y'all, leave me alone. But I don't really have a lot of space in the studio left. I would need some kind of blank wall, some kind of like area that I could, that was like rectangular or square, that I could put all these test styles on. Where am I gonna where did I find a space like that? Oh, we're gonna put it right there. I usually glaze all right here. Right here are all my buckets of glaze that I like to kind of spend the night in. Sometimes I stay up until like 1 AM and just keep glazing. So I think it's a good idea to have it right here in the space in which I'm probably already gonna be glazing anyway.
But Donte, how are you gonna throw these bottles so fast? Wouldn't that take a extreme amount of time?
Not really. Number one, I'm gonna hump throw because I want this done fast, not right. I'm American, are you fooling me? And number two, every bottle that I make, I'm gonna split in half. I don't need an entire bottle for a tester, and I'm gonna drill a hole in the top so I can hang them up somewhere. So technically speaking, if I have 14 glazes and I wanna represent them all in a single coat, then I can just make 7 bottles, cut them in half. There we go, there's my 14 glazes. So I'm gonna start hump throwing those bottles.
Yeah, I'm cruising through the city. Had to get outside, it couldn't get any more pretty. I'm moving, hey, who's coming with me? Swerving on my bike, making 20 feel like 50. Man, they miss me, hey. Got the pedal moving swiftly, vibe like suns, and I had to raise them strictly. Wishing I could always stay this way, hey. Chilling by the bay, had to make me say that even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. Yeah. Now break. Take it in. Feel it all around. Take a breath. Feel the wind. Don't fake. Nah, that's a sin. Invest in yourself. Liberate. Dividend. Cash it in. Never spend. Unless you chillin' with a friend. And he don't have the means to get his pocket filled with tens. Still a man is wishing I could always date his way. Hey, chillin' by the bay. Had to make me say that even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah.
So this is basically what I'm gonna be doing to make the textile wall. All I did is make these little bottles, cut them in half. I got a little tool and I drilled a tiny little hole right there through the top. By this, you can sort of imagine what I'm gonna do with these. The only difference is these are clearly gonna be up on a wall or some type of tile up here. You know what I mean? I'm gonna show you guys how I did one of these real quick, just in case you're making one of these at home yourself with this video.
The sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. Yeah, now break.
I'm gonna let these dry a little bit because a lot of them are still very movable and a little bit squishy, if you can see it. But after these dry a little bit, I'm pretty much just gonna get a potter's knife and drill a hole right through the top of these. So this way I can hang them or tie them to whatever. I'm just gonna do one of these right here, just in case you're wondering how I made the hole. I had a bunch of people on Instagram asking me if I had, like, you know, the hole maker, and I was like, nope, just a good old knife and some twisty twist. All right, it's the next day now, and these are looking pretty dry. So now I'm just gonna get my potter's tool and just drill a little hole right at the top.
You gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. Oh, yeah. Though you're gone far away.
Instead of going way up here, I'm kind of going at the base of the shaft and making the hole. That's for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you threw these really, really thin and I'm gonna hang these up on a wall, I'm of course gonna hang them by the hole. And that means that if they ever break or somehow succumb to gravity and fall off, you're basically hanging them by the weakest part of the pot right here. Like this one here. This one is super thin on the inside, so I of course don't wanna hang it by the very top right here. This one's quite thick, so I don't really have to worry about it, but for this one here, I would worry about this one. So just as a little safety precaution, I'm just gonna put them a little bit further down the base of that shaft. Also, if you're following along at home, I would suggest making sure that you do this in the leather soft to leather phase, because the more brittle it is, the more of a chance it has to crack, and you don't want it cracking everywhere and kind of exploding on you while you're trying to make these holes in them. Some of you might also be wondering right now, how did you cut the bottoms off when you were throwing it off the hump? Well, when I was throwing it off the hump, I have the base here. I just went a little bit higher, so that way most of these pieces don't even have bottoms to begin with. But sometimes I miscalculated and went a little bit lower, which forced it to kind of have a foot like this. All I really have to do with this is get my potter's knife and just carve this right out. It's really not that difficult. You don't need it, but at the same time, if you want it, you can have it. It's really up to you to have a bottom or not if you are making one of these at home yourself. If you're not using a hole maker, you're gonna start to notice these little clay boogers around the sides in which you made the actual hole. These are really easy to get off. This is one of the reasons I don't mind not using a hole maker, because you can very easily turn this into this by just wiping it down for about 5 seconds with a sponge, which I'm about to do to all of these now. You know, the thing that I really like is that these don't have bottoms to them, and usually throwing off the hump will sometimes create S-cracks if you don't condense the bottoms really well. But like, I didn't have to worry about this with these because like these don't have bottoms, so I just let these air dry for like a day and a half and they were good to go.
Keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. Oh, yeah. Though you're gone far. Yeah. Oh, there they go. Hey, moving on that road. Hey, sunny day. Hey, even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on.
Get out of the kiln! We have things to do!
On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you.
Okay, we have all the white ones lined up and we have all the brown ones lined up. Now I'm just gonna get all my glazes, and I believe I have about 8 glazes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these two will be combinations. And then clearly I have more than 8 white ones, so I'll be making more white combinations than brown combinations. What do you think, Lindsay?
I think that's an excellent idea, Donte.
Because don't worry about it is why. No, we're doing taping for the Empty Bowls project that we should be donating a lot of bowls to in about like 19 days or so. So she's here, and I kind of figured you guys wouldn't mind her being here. And if you do, unsubscribe.
Yeah, I missed you guys, so just deal with it.
So we're gonna put these to the side, and what we have to do now is we have to mix up these glazes fairly well, because I want a good representation of every single glaze. We have a bottle of wax resist, we have our clear, we have our floating blue, we have all the other glazes that would be down here underneath my glaze or workstation. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to, off camera, because I'm sure you don't wanna see all of that, mix up all these glazes fairly well for about a minute each, and then dip all of these glazes inside of them. The one thing that I feel like I should tell a lot of you guys is if you're doing this at home, I will be dipping this portion, or at least the majority of the bottom of each test style, in wax resist like this, so that I can put them straight up like this inside of the kiln. This way I can have an entire level of just straight up glazed test styles with mixtures and everything on them. But we need to get the base glazes out of the way. So I need one June Prairie's purple right here, one June Prairie's pink right here, and then I need a brown version of June Prairie's purple right here, and then June Prairie's pink right here, and so on and so forth until I get the entire gambit of my glazes as a representation on the glaze wall that we're making. So here's a picture of a cute dog, and I'm gonna start mixing up those glazes.
That's right on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. I'm cruising through the city. Had to get outside, it couldn't get any more pretty. I'm moving.
Okay, so it's the next morning, and all of these are fairly dry now. Let's kind of go over the list, but I organized them fairly well from top to bottom, I don't know why. I don't seem to understand from left to right. I know that's how most people read, but I like to go from up to down to up to down to up to, you know, I like to go up and down. But I did make a list because each and every time I think I remember stuff, I'm like, I'll remember it in the morning. I do not remember it in the morning. So let's see what this list says. So up here is June Prairie's purple on white and red, and that's the way it is for the entire thing. So from now on, I'm not gonna say white and red. It's just gonna be just red. So the test styles are organized in between white and red. This is B mix with no grog and redstone clay. June Prairie's purple, oil spot red, floating blue, Tenmoku gold. We got John Britt's red, and then we come all the way up here. We should have Lumos, and then Randy's red. This is my Celso Oribe, and this down here, I believe, should be Randy's red or Ron Roy's High Gloss Black. I'm pretty sure this is Ron Roy's High Gloss Black. Over here is Tenmoku Gold and June Prairie's purple, Tenmoku Gold and Lumos, Tenmoku Gold and Randy's red. And then over here, we have Lumos in Randy's red, and then we have Lumos in the oil spot glaze. I have a bunch more combinations that I could test for the glaze wall, but the issue is that I kind of ran out of a lot of the testers, so I'll probably make a little bit more and keep adding to the wall as we go and as we make combinations. But since I changed over from my old kiln to my new kiln, I've had to reformulate a lot of my glazes and fix the gravity with the help of Sue and XYZ, so a lot of these combinations don't work anymore, but these combinations over here I know work for sure with the 5 to 10 minute holds that I put on a lot of my stuff. So we're gonna put these in the kiln right now.
There they go, hey, moving on that road, hey, sunny day, hey. Even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes...
Oh my god, you have no idea how much this pleases my OCD senses right now. Like these are perfectly patterned too. Well, they're not perfect, but they're still in order, and that's what kind of matters to me, you know what I mean? So I didn't think that it would take up an entire 3/4 or at least half level of my bottom shelf. So I'm gonna put some more stuff in the top levels, and we're gonna run this kiln, and I will see you guys in another 24 hours. I know sometimes you guys aren't fans of dogs, So here's a cute picture of a cat.
I could always stay this way, ayy, chillin' by the bay. Had to make me say that even if the sun goes down on you.
So this is all good and everything, and I like this, but the question now has become, how am I going to get all this stuff from over here to up there on that wall? This is pretty much where I've been holding all of the mugs that just this light, bro. This is like this weird board thing that I found when I moved here that I've been holding all the mugs that I am too sentimental about to let go, just because they have something special about them. Like this one has a crack of gold in it, so you can't put it in the microwave. This one was the first time I figured out I could combine lumos with stuff. This is my first June Prairie's pink and chemical gold. That one up there is my first singular oil spot glaze. That's just a pretty blue. But looks like I'm gonna have to sacrifice these. I'm gonna take these away.
Had to make me say that even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah.
I kind of sort of knew that I was going to be doing this in the first place with this board, but I really just didn't want to go buy a new board at IKEA or Home Depot, so I bought a bunch of extras of these types of little things right here, except for they're a little bit shorter. It's one of the reasons why when I made these, I knew that I have to put a hole in them so that I can hang them up like this. And I don't have like a label maker or anything right now, so I have to put them in order of the way that we originally have them on the table here so I can remember, according to the list, what they are. And then when I put them up on the wall, I can probably tell, like I can clearly tell that this one is my Oribe glaze at cone 5.6. But there's some of them, like, I would never guess that this is my Tenmoku Gold on a brown clay body, because it doesn't look like this usually. It usually looks like what the inside says here. It usually looks like this on a white clay body.
And even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. I'm cruising through the city. Had to get outside, it couldn't get any more pretty. I'm moving, hey, who's coming with me? Swerving on my bike, making 20 feel like 50. Man, they miss me, hey. Got the pedal moving swiftly, vibe like suns, and I had to raise them strictly. Wishing I could always stay this way, hey, chilling by the bay. Had to make me say that even if the sun.
12 seconds later.
Okay, hear me out. I've been gone for maybe about 10 minutes, and I found my packet of screws, and I found my drill, and I found all the goodness, right? But ever since, but ever since I've been putting up a lot of other stuff in this studio, I might have, I'm not saying I did, okay? I'm not saying I did, person in the comments below, might have lost my drill bit, which means I can't put drywall anchors into the wall in order to put this stuff up. So hear me out. What if we just take this, so hear me out. What if we just take this and we put it right back where it was? It's gonna bug me a little bit because this is where I usually glaze. This is where I keep all my glazes. This is considered like my glaze station, and I would like to have a visual representation of it up there, right? But I can't because I don't have the proper equipment right now, and I need to do this now. Unless I want to put regular nails up there, which I'm pretty sure in this drywall it's a little too heavy. Not only do I not have the drill to put in more drywall anchors, there's already, guys, listen, there's already a set amount of drywall. I can hear you in the comments below. Shut up, I'm putting it up there.
Though you're gone far away. Yeah. Oh, there they go. Hey, moving on it. Oh. Hey. Even if the sun goes down on you, you gotta keep that shine on top, yeah. On top, yeah. On top, yeah. And even if the sun goes down on you,
It doesn't look too bad at all. You know, I kind of wanted it like over there so that while I'm glazing, I could just like look up. That's the color. Look back down. But now I have to do one of these like Zoolander looking around.
Stop it.
But thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. I kind of just wanted a visual representation of what I would be glazing with all my glazes. The fun part about this is as I get more of these and as I change out glazes, I can very easily just change out the textiles themselves. So I'm pretty happy with like these glazes here are kind of all a standard for me. My Lumos, my John Brits. But I imagine sooner or later if my Randy's Red doesn't start like acting correctly, I'm just gonna take these two off and place it with 2 more test styles. And this way I can also put a lot more glaze combinations up here. It won't be too hard. If I can find another one of these, I can probably place like a smaller one down here or another one over there, and that way I'll have like double the glazes. But I can't really imagine a world where I'm gonna need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different glazes and then test all the combinations of those glazes. I can't really imagine a world where I'm gonna need more than 10 glazes, because with these glazes, I then have to test the combinations. And this is already 10 times 10, so, and then you have to test the layering effects of the glazes. So like if you put black on green, then you have to test green on black, because those do vary. So that's 10 times 10 times 10, really. So I don't think I need more than maybe like 13 or 14 base glazes ever. I need the outside people, I need them to go away. They're making so much noise. You see how there's darkness around my eyes? It's because I'm tired. And they're the source. That's a lie. I stay up on my own free will and accord. But thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. I'm actually really excited to have this glaze wall. I know a lot of you guys are like, this is just the same. You could have just taken pictures of these easily, but it really helps. I don't want to check my phone every time I want to use a new glaze. I'd much rather just look up or look behind me. It's much easier to glaze. And I'll get more of these, and I'll probably put all the combinations right here as well. This is one of my favorite combinations. Thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. If you'd like to see any of my actual artwork, the links are always down below. The Facebook, the Instagrams. If you want to see more stuff like this, you already know what buttons to click. I shouldn't have to tell you. You know how subscribing works. You have more than the double-digit IQ. You know how the YouTube works. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I will see you, Dirty Potters, next week.
On top, yeah. On top, yeah. I'm cruising through the city. Had to get outside, it couldn't get any more pretty. I'm moving.